How often have you sacrificed something important for someone else, believing it would resolve everything? You've given up your time, your energy, perhaps even your dreams, all to maintain peace or satisfy another person. In the back of your mind, you tell yourself it's worth it, that eventually you'll regain it all. But here's the harsh truth. When we continuously give pieces of ourselves away, we eventually lose sight of who we truly are. We begin to feel depleted, spread thin, as if we're living not for ourselves, but for the expectations of others. And that feeling, it impacts every facet of our lives, our happiness, our health, and our sense of purpose. The Stoic path to unshakable self today. I want to discuss something the ancient Stoics understood profoundly, knowing what's worth preserving and what's worth releasing. The Stoics were masters at safeguarding their inner peace, maintaining a stable internal world regardless of external chaos. They grasped that to lead a truly fulfilling life, certain things should never be sacrificed no matter who or what demands it. In this video, we'll delve into 5 things you should never surrender for anyone: your self-respect, your health, your dreams, your values, and your happiness. Each of these is a cornerstone of your identity, and once relinquished, the path to recovery is long and arduous. So, if you've been feeling lost or as though you're sacrificing too much of yourself for others, stay tuned. Today isn't merely about self-preservation, it's about reclaiming your inner strength and purpose, drawing wisdom from Stoic philosophy to help you cling to what truly matters. Life is too precious, and you are too valuable to allow anyone or anything to strip away what makes you uniquely you. Let's begin. 1. Unwavering self-respect. Self-respect is more than just a concept. It's the bedrock of how we experience ourselves and the world. When you respect yourself, you establish the standard for how others should treat you. You're asserting, this is the benchmark, this is who I am, and this is what I will not tolerate. But when you start to relinquish that self-respect, perhaps to avoid conflict or out of fear of losing someone's approval, you begin to erode your own sense of worth. And honestly, without self-respect, everything else crumbles. The Stoics recognized this deeply. Epictetus taught that respecting ourselves was one of the most powerful actions we could undertake. He frequently reminded his students that our intrinsic, a sense of dignity, not the judgments of others or societal expectations, truly defines us. Self-respect isn't about ego, it's about integrity. Ego craves external validation, wanting others to perceive us in a certain way to make us feel important in the eyes of the world. But self-respect, that's about the relationship you have with yourself. It's about adhering to your values and remaining true to your principles, regardless of who or what attempts to sway you. Here's the tricky part. It's incredibly easy to lose self-respect without even realizing it. Perhaps you're in a relationship where you feel unheard or undervalued, yet you remain thinking things will eventually improve. Or perhaps you're in a job where you're consistently overlooked and unappreciated, but you keep showing up because, well, you need the paycheck, and besides, it's not that bad. We convince ourselves it's only temporary, that we can handle it. But over time, each small compromise, each let-it-slide moment, slowly chips away at the respect you hold for yourself. You begin to question your worth, and that's a perilous position to be in. Marcus Aurelius believed that when we compromise our self-respect, we lose something fundamental: our alignment with our true selves. To live out of harmony with our values and dignity, he argued, is to live a life of inner conflict. Imagine that. An emperor, someone who could have had anything he desired, chose to live with strict discipline and honor instead of indulging his every whim. Why? Because he understood that without self-respect, even the grandest of lives feels hollow. Setting boundaries is one of the most crucial ways to protect your self-respect. And let's be honest, setting boundaries can feel terrifying. We're taught to be accommodating, easygoing, to make others comfortable, even when it costs us our peace. But here's the thing, the Stoics would tell us, true peace originates from within. It stems from the courage to say no when something doesn't align with our values or respect our worth. Boundaries aren't walls, they're guidelines. They demonstrate to others how to treat you, and more importantly, they remind you how you deserve to be treated. And this is where Stoicism grounds us once more, in Stoic practice. There's an emphasis on what's within our control and what isn't. We cannot control how others react to our boundaries or our decisions, but we can control our commitment to self-respect. So, if someone reacts poorly to your boundaries, if they label you difficult or selfish, that's on them, not you. The people who genuinely value you will respect your boundaries because they respect you. The Stoics were clear: true relationships, true friendships, are built on mutual respect and understanding, not on what we can extract from each other. Now, let's address the fear of losing people. It's natural to think, if I set these boundaries, what if people leave? But here's the truth. Anyone who walks away because you're respecting yourself was never truly with you in the first place. Epictetus would remind us that we're not here to keep everyone happy, to contort ourselves into versions that fit others' needs. We're here to live with integrity, to honor our intrinsic dignity. Self-respect involves accepting the fact that not everyone will comprehend or appreciate our boundaries, and that's perfectly acceptable. When you prioritize self-respect, you establish a standard that others notice. whether they articulate it or not. People see that you don't tolerate disrespect, that you won't be manipulated or undervalued. And over time, you'll discover that you begin to attract people who truly respect you, people who understand what genuine connection entails. And let's be honest, we've all witnessed individuals who settle for less than they deserve, who allow themselves to be treated as if they're less valuable than they are. We observe from afar, wondering why they remain in situations that don't serve them. Yet, how often do we find ourselves doing the exact same thing? So, if you're currently in a place where you feel like you're constantly sacrificing your self-respect to maintain peace, to make others comfortable, I want you to pause and reflect. What are you truly gaining? Is it worth losing yourself? Your dignity. As the Stoics would say, nothing external to us is worth compromising the inner peace that emanates from self-respect. Ultimately, self-respect isn't just about how others treat you. It's about how you treat yourself. Do you speak kindly to yourself? Do you honor your own needs and boundaries? Or are you perpetually putting yourself last? Remember, when you start respecting yourself, it's like constructing a fortress around your inner peace. No one can take that from you unless you surrender it. Self-respect is the armor that keeps you steady, that grounds you when life becomes challenging. And the beautiful thing is, the more you respect yourself, the less you crave external approval or validation. You'll find that you're living in harmony with who you truly are, just as the Stoics taught us to do. Self-respect isn't merely something you practice occasionally, it's a way of life. So guard it fiercely, because once you possess it, everything else falls into place. 2. Prioritizing your health. We all know that without health, nothing else truly matters. Yet we constantly postpone it, telling ourselves we'll get to it once. Everything else is handled. There's work, responsibilities, deadlines, and people who depend on us. And then, almost as an afterthought, there's our health. But the Stoics would tell us that we're approaching it all wrong. Health isn't something we sacrifice for later. It's the very foundation we need for everything else. If we're not healthy, if we're not caring for our bodies and minds, how can we ever hope to accomplish anything well? Marcus Aurelius understood this profoundly. He constantly reminded himself, and by extension us, that our bodies are temples, vessels that carry us through this world. In Meditations, he wrote about the importance of caring for our bodies as part of our duty to ourselves. To him, it was simple logic. If the body falters, the mind follows, and with it, all our aspirations and responsibilities. Stoicism teaches us to respect our nature, and our nature includes our physical and mental well-being. Ignoring that is like expecting a tree to bear fruit without ever watering it. It simply doesn't work. But here's where things get tough. The world we live in practically glorifies sacrificing health for the sake of ambition. We celebrate the hustle culture, with people boasting about sleepless nights, skipped meals, and running on fumes, as if it's a badge of honor. And for what? Money, status, approval. Sure, those things might feel rewarding, but they come at a cost. Let's be honest. How many successful people do we see who achieve their goals only to find themselves too exhausted or unwell to enjoy the success they've attained? In the Stoic view, that's a tragedy, a misuse of life. They would remind us that true success is found in balance, not in burnout. Think about it this way. If we neglect our health, we're essentially pulling the very ground out from beneath us. If our bodies aren't strong, if our minds aren't clear, we're setting ourselves up to struggle in every other area of life. The Stoics had a word for this kind of unwise approach, akrasia, or acting against our better judgment. They knew that we often ignore what we know is best for us, but they also urged us to fight against this impulse. Stoicism is about living wisely, with discipline, and honoring the needs of both body and mind is central to that wisdom. Taking care of our health doesn't mean we have to become fitness fanatics or subsist solely on green smoothies. It's about balance, about making choices that support us, not drain us. For the Stoics, health was holistic. It encompassed physical, mental, and emotional well-being. They didn't separate the mind from the body, as so many do today. They knew that stress, anxiety, and emotional strain weigh on the body just as much as poor physical habits. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, believed in calming the mind and reducing stress as a pathway to health, noting that an agitated mind was a source of suffering that could physically weaken the body. In other words, mental peace is just as essential as a healthy diet or exercise. So where does that leave us? It means that taking care of our health is about consistency, not perfection. It's about listening to our bodies, recognizing when we need rest, when we need movement, and when we need mental quiet. Yes, sometimes it means choosing to go to bed instead of answering one more email. Sometimes it means stepping outside for fresh air when you're feeling mentally drained. Sometimes it means saying no to the expectations of others so you can say yes to your own well-being. Epictetus taught that freedom and happiness arise from living in harmony with our nature. And part of that nature is the need to care for the vessel that carries us. Our health. Our culture has a way of making us feel like self-care is selfish, like we're not doing enough if we prioritize our health. But Stoicism tells us something different. The Stoics would say that taking care of our health is a responsibility, a duty. After all, How can we be of service to others? How can we contribute meaningfully to the world if we're constantly running on empty? If we truly want to make a difference, to show up for the people who rely on us, we need to be healthy. Self-sacrifice at the expense of health isn't noble. It's short-sighted. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't give what you don't have. When it comes to physical health, the Stoics were practical. They believed in caring for the body as part of a disciplined, virtuous life. They didn't overindulge or neglect their bodies. They found a middle path. They exercised mindfully and avoided excess, not out of vanity, but because they saw the body as an instrument that needed to be maintained to serve the mind and soul effectively. So ask yourself, are you treating your body as the sacred vessel it is, or are you pushing it to its limits, hoping it will just keep up with everything you throw at it? Because at some point, the body speaks back, and if we don't listen, it can force us to stop in ways we'd rather avoid. And let's talk about mental health for a moment. We don't often think of it as part of our health, but the Stoics considered mental peace essential. They practiced what we might call mental hygiene, taking time each day to reflect, to clear their minds of unnecessary worries, to focus on what's within their control. Stress, anger, and anxiety were viewed as obstacles to a peaceful life, something to be managed carefully. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to release things outside his control, recognizing that clinging to these stresses was both harmful and futile. So, how often do we let stress dominate our lives? How often do we allow small, uncontrollable things to occupy massive space in our minds? The Stoics would urge us to practice mental care as diligently as we care for our physical selves. Finally, let's acknowledge this. Protecting your health requires courage. It takes courage to say, I need a break. It takes strength to step back and admit, I'm burning out. Society might push us to keep going, to power through, but that's not living wisely. The Stoics believed that we each have a responsibility to ourselves to live in balance. They tell us that living well means living sustainably, not as though we're in a perpetual race. So, take care of your health, not just for the long run, but because your health is the one thing that allows you to be the best version of yourself here and now. Ultimately, you are the guardian of your own well-being. Your health, your physical, mental, and emotional state is what enables you to truly experience life, to find joy, and to achieve everything you set out to do. Don't sacrifice it for anyone or anything, because, as the Stoics would remind us, health is a foundation, not a reward. It's the ground you stand on. When you prioritize it, you're choosing a life of balance, peace, and strength. And that's something worth protecting every single day. 3. Nurturing. Your dreams aren't just fleeting wishes or fanciful ideas. They're deep-seated desires that propel us, that imbue life with its color and meaning. Yet, how often do we let them slip through our fingers? How many times do we set them aside, thinking we'll get to them later, or that they're too unrealistic? The Stoics taught us to stay grounded in reality. Yes, but they also believed in fulfilling our purpose, in walking the path that only we are meant to walk. And that's precisely what dreams are, a path unique to each of us, a calling that no one else can answer on our behalf. The Stoics believed that each person has a role in life, a purpose tied to their character and capacities. They called it duty or nature, the idea that every soul has something unique to contribute to the world. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of living in accordance with our nature, of pursuing the things that align with our deeper purpose. So, when we dismiss our dreams, we're not just letting go of a wish or fantasy, we're denying a part of ourselves, a part that's meant to be expressed and fulfilled. Dreams are more than ambitions. They are potential reaching out, urging us to become who we were always meant to be. Yet, dreams are vulnerable. It's all too easy to sacrifice them in the face of fear, doubt, or the skepticism of others. Perhaps someone in your life told you that your dreams were too grand or impractical. Perhaps you've been conditioned to believe that pursuing a dream is a selfish endeavor, something you shouldn't prioritize. But here's the thing. The Stoics would argue that living without honoring your potential is a far greater tragedy than any failure you might encounter along the way. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do." He understood that the initial step toward achieving anything is to embrace that vision, to claim it as part of who you are, and then to act with resolve and consistency. So, let's talk about those fears. Dreams can be daunting because they often demand that we step outside our comfort zones, risk failure, and confront challenges that feel insurmountable. But the Stoics were clear: fear is a liar, a trick of the mind that keeps us tethered to the familiar. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that obstacles are an inherent part of life, that adversity is simply an opportunity to strengthen our character. When we face setbacks or rejection, we're simply being asked to refine our approach, to grow stronger and become more resilient. The Stoics called this the obstacle becoming the way. Every challenge on the path to our dreams is, in fact, a crucial step in our growth. So instead of letting fear diminish us, we should let it sharpen us. The problem is, people around us sometimes project their own fears onto us. Friends, family, colleagues. They may mean well, but they don't perceive the dream the way you do. They might urge you to be realistic, to play it safe, to settle, But the Stoics teach us that our life is our responsibility. Others cannot walk our path for us. They cannot fulfill our purpose. They cannot live our dreams. Epictetus advised his students to focus on what was within their control, which in this instance means focusing on your own commitment to your dreams rather than seeking validation or permission from others. The vision is yours, and if you let it go, no one else can carry it forward for you. Living a life without dreams is like going through the motions without ever truly feeling alive. Think about it. When was the last time you felt genuinely excited, energized, or driven by something? Dreams do that for us. They give us purpose. They're like a fire that fuels our actions, providing us with the motivation to overcome challenges and push forward, even when the going gets tough. And yes, that path might be long. It might not unfold as you imagined. It might lead you in directions you never anticipated. But that's the beauty of it. As the Stoics would say, the journey is part of the reward. Every step, every lesson, every challenge molds you into the person you need to become to fulfill your potential. The Stoics also remind us that our dreams don't have to materialize all at once. They believed in persistence, in taking consistent action, even if it's small. Epictetus stated, "No great thing is created suddenly. Just as a plant doesn't grow overnight, neither do our dreams. They require time, attention, and patience. Some days you'll make significant progress, and other days it might feel like you're not moving forward at all. That's normal." The Stoics teach us not to be discouraged by slow progress, but to keep going, one step at a time. Small steps, over time, lead to great transformations. And let's address another common roadblock: the idea that dreams are selfish. Many people believe that pursuing what we want, what we feel called to do, is somehow indulgent or self-centered. But here's where the Stoics would completely reverse this thinking. To them, fulfilling your potential wasn't selfish. It was a service to the world. When you live in alignment with your purpose, when you chase after your dreams and become the best version of yourself, you inspire others to do the same. You become a force for good, contributing your unique gifts to the world. Marcus Aurelius believed that we all have a duty to make the world a better place, and one of the best ways to do that is by realizing our full potential. Your dreams are not just for you, they're your gift to the world. But let's not pretend it's all easy. There will be setbacks, times when you'll doubt yourself, moments when you'll feel tempted to give up. And in those moments, the Stoics offer us a lifeline. They remind us that setbacks are not failures. They're simply part of the process. Every time you stumble, every time you face a no, you're simply being given a chance to build resilience. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." So instead of viewing obstacles as reasons to give up, see them as opportunities to grow stronger and more determined. Remember, dreams aren't about reaching some final destination where everything is perfect. They're about the journey, the transformation that occurs along the way, the person you become as you chase your dreams, the resilience you build, the lessons you learn, the growth you experience. That's the true reward. So don't sacrifice your dreams for anyone. Don't let fear or doubt hold you back. Don't let other people's opinions make you shrink. You are the only person who can bring your unique vision to life, and the world is waiting for you to do it. For protecting your core values. Values are the core of who we are, the principles that guide us through life. Yet they're often the first things we're willing to compromise when under pressure. Perhaps it's to fit in, to get ahead, or to avoid conflict. But here's the truth. When we start sacrificing our values, we're not just bending on minor points. We're giving away pieces of ourselves. Our values are what anchor us, what give our lives direction and meaning. The Stoics understood this better than most. To them, living in alignment with one's values wasn't optional. It was the entire purpose of life. They believed that if you let go of your values, you let go of the essence of who you are. Think of values as your internal compass. They're the beliefs and standards that help you navigate the complexities of life, showing you what's right and what's wrong, even when everything else feels uncertain. Marcus Aurelius was renowned for adhering to his values no matter the situation. As one of the most powerful people in the world, he could have easily allowed power, luxury, and status to sway him. But he chose instead to live with humility, discipline, and integrity. In his journal, Meditations, he constantly reminded himself to remain true to his principles, to live with virtue and kindness, regardless of what others were doing around him. That's a powerful lesson. Our values shouldn't change based on circumstances. They should be our constant. But the world doesn't always make it easy, does it? Every day we face situations that test our values. Perhaps it's a workplace where cutting corners seems to be the norm, or a friend group where gossiping about others is part of the culture. Maybe it's a relationship where you feel pressured to compromise your boundaries just to keep the peace. In these moments, it can feel easier to go along with what everyone else is doing, to avoid standing out or causing conflict. But the Stoics would warn us that the easy way is often the path away from virtue. Living according to your values is rarely the easiest option. It requires courage, resilience, and a willingness to stand alone if necessary. One of the key Stoic virtues is integrity. Integrity means being whole, being consistent in your actions, words, and beliefs. It means that what you believe on the inside matches what you do on the outside. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who once lived as a slave, knew firsthand the importance of integrity. Despite his circumstances, he refused to abandon his principles, teaching that true freedom is found in the ability to remain true to oneself, no matter the external conditions. He once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." What he meant was that holding to your values, even when others don't understand, is a mark of strength, the kind of strength that cannot be shaken by others' opinions. Setting and upholding values is like constructing the foundation of a house. If that foundation is strong, the house can withstand any storm, but if it's weak, the entire structure is at risk. When we compromise our values, even in small ways, we're chipping away at that foundation. We're telling ourselves that maybe this one time it's okay to let it slide, that a little bending won't hurt. But the Stoics would argue that every compromise, every small exception we make to our values, weakens the core of who we are. Once you start bending, it's difficult to stop. Before you know it, you're living a life that doesn't align with who you truly are. And here's where Stoicism provides such powerful guidance. The Stoics teach us to focus on what we can control, and one thing we absolutely control is our commitment to our values. We can't control how others react or whether they understand or agree, but we can control how we show up, how we choose to act, and the standards we set for ourselves. This is a powerful reminder because in a world full of external pressures, it's easy to feel like our values are negotiable, but they're not. They're the unshakable parts of us, the principles that guide our choices, no matter how popular or convenient it might be to let them go. Sticking to your values is a test of courage. It means saying no when others expect a yes. It means walking away from situations or people who don't respect who you are at your core, and that's tough, right? Sometimes it means disappointing people, facing criticism, or even losing relationships. But here's the thing, if someone or something is asking you to give up your values, then they're not truly aligned with who you are. The Stoics would say that no relationship, no job, no amount of success is worth sacrificing your principles. If anything, they would encourage us to walk away from what doesn't honor our integrity and seek out people and opportunities that do. The Stoic philosopher Seneca also believed that living in harmony with our values was essential to peace of mind. He saw values as a source of inner strength, a way to live free of regret and guilt. Imagine that kind of life, where you can look back on your decisions without feeling you betrayed yourself, where you don't have to make excuses for compromising your principles. When we stay true to our values, we live with a kind of quiet confidence, a calm assurance that no one can take away from us. We become unshakable because we know we're living in alignment with who we truly are. Now, some people might say that, in today's world, adhering to your values is unrealistic, that it's idealistic or impractical, but the Stoics would challenge that notion. They'd argue that values aren't meant to be convenient, they're meant to keep us grounded, to help us live with dignity and purpose. Sure, there will be moments when holding to your values costs you something. Maybe it's an opportunity, maybe it's a friendship, maybe it's approval. But if you abandon your values for short-term gain, you're left with something hollow, something that ultimately doesn't fulfill you. True success, according to Stoicism, is not found in popularity or wealth, but in living a life true to your principles. Let's be real. There will be times when sticking to your values makes you feel isolated. It's not always easy to go against the grain, especially when everyone around you seems to be taking the easy road. But here's where the Stoic perspective is so powerful. They teach us that our purpose isn't to blend in or to please others. It's to live with honor, to uphold virtues like courage, wisdom, and integrity. If we choose our values over convenience, over comfort, we might stand out, but we also stand tall. And standing tall, rooted in our principles, is far more fulfilling than the shallow comfort of blending in. So remember, your values are not open for discussion. They are not meant to be adjusted to make others comfortable. They are yours to uphold, to protect, and to live by. When we live in alignment with our values, we don't just build a life, we build a legacy. We become examples of what it means to live with integrity, inspiring others to do the same. And at the end of the day, when you lay your head down at night, it's your values that will grant you peace, the peace that comes from knowing you've been true to yourself. 5. Cultivating your happiness. Happiness is something we all pursue, something we all desire to feel deep down. But in today's world, happiness often feels like a distant objective, something we'll attain only after we've accomplished everything else on our to-do lists. How many times have we deferred our happiness, telling ourselves, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, or I'll be happy once I'm successful enough, once I have enough. But here's the problem. Happiness isn't something you discover at the culmination of a long journey. The Stoics would tell us that happiness is a byproduct of living in alignment with our values, of being at peace with ourselves, and of appreciating the present moment for what it is, not what we wish it would be. The Stoics had a word for happiness, eudaimonia. It doesn't translate to happiness in the simple sense of pleasure or excitement. It's more akin to flourishing or living well. It's the feeling that emerges when you're living in accordance with your true self, with purpose and with virtue. That them happiness wasn't about chasing external rewards, fame, or wealth. It was about cultivating inner peace, about mastering your mind and living with integrity. This kind of happiness isn't flashy. It's not about the fleeting highs that come and go. It's a deeper, steadier contentment, a fulfillment that remains with you even when life isn't unfolding perfectly. But let's be honest, society has taught us to relegate happiness to the back burner, to make it something we'll address later. We are taught that it's normal to work ourselves to exhaustion, to keep pushing and sacrificing, all in the name of success, and we believe one day it'll all pay off. But the Stoics would challenge that. They'd ask us, what's the purpose of reaching the summit if you're too stressed or miserable to enjoy it? Marcus Aurelius, who bore the weight of an empire on his shoulders, recognized the importance of finding peace in the present. He wrote about the dangers of constantly looking ahead, of perpetually believing happiness lay in some future achievement. Instead, he reminded himself daily to look inward, to find contentment in the simplicity of the moment. So, what does it mean to protect our happiness? For one, it means being mindful of where we're investing our energy. It's easy to pour ourselves into things that drain us, jobs we don't love, relationships that feel one-sided, obligations that don't align with our true priorities. And when we constantly give our energy to things that deplete us, happiness begins to slip through our fingers. Epictetus would tell us that we need to be intentional about where we direct our energy. He taught that we're responsible for our own peace of mind and that no one else can create it for us. It's up to us to cultivate it, to nurture it, to protect it from people or situations that steal it away. The Stoics also believed in the concept of ataraxia, which means tranquility or freedom from disturbance. It's a state of mind where you're not constantly buffeted by external events or the expectations of others. Imagine that. A life where your happiness doesn't hinge on the opinions of others, where you're not perpetually worried about how others perceive you. The Stoics would say that true happiness arises from this inner tranquility, from focusing on what's within your control and releasing what's not. When we become entangled in things we can't control, like other people's approval or the unpredictable ups and downs of life, we forfeit our happiness. Instead, the Stoics would encourage us to anchor ourselves in our own values, to make peace with who we are, regardless of the surrounding noise. Another aspect of protecting our happiness is setting boundaries. It might sound simple, but boundaries are essential to a happy, peaceful life. They are our way of declaring, this is what I need to feel whole, to feel well, to feel at peace. And yet, how often do we let those boundaries erode? How often do we say yes when do things we don't want to do, simply to avoid disappointing others? The Stoics would remind us that our happiness isn't selfish, it's our responsibility. Happiness doesn't mean isolating yourself or cutting everyone out of your life. However, it does mean being honest about what brings you joy and what detracts from it. And if someone in your life doesn't respect your boundaries, the Stoics would tell you that this person might not be genuinely aligned with who you are or who you aspire to be. Happiness is also about gratitude, about learning to appreciate what we possess instead of focusing on what's absent. Seneca spoke extensively about this concept of enough. He believed that happiness wasn't about accumulating more, but about valuing what we already have. It's easy to get caught in the mindset that we'll be happy once we have more money, more success, more recognition. But Seneca would encourage us to pause and look around. Do you have people who care about you? Do you have your health? Do you experience moments of peace, however small? If so, then happiness can be found right here, right now. The Stoics practiced gratitude daily, not merely as a pleasant idea, but as a practical tool to ground themselves in what was real and meaningful. Let's also discuss self-compassion, because safeguarding our happiness often begins with how we treat ourselves. The Stoics believed in being kind to oneself, in accepting our inherent humanity. We will make mistakes, fall short, and have days where we don't feel our best. But instead of chastising ourselves, we need to treat ourselves with the same patience and kindness we would extend to a friend. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself about the importance of accepting his own imperfections, of remembering that he was human. When we practice this kind of self-compassion, we create space for happiness to flourish. We stop holding ourselves to impossible standards and begin to appreciate the journey we're on, flaws and all. And here's a crucial point. Happiness isn't about constant pleasure. The Stoics would tell us that genuine happiness doesn't stem from pursuing pleasure or avoiding discomfort. Life will inevitably present challenges, dark days, and tough lessons. And sometimes, we must endure pain or struggle to grow, to become better versions of ourselves. The Stoics believed that happiness wasn't about circumventing hardship, but about building resilience, about discovering meaning even in difficult times. Epictetus once said that hardship introduces a person to themselves. So instead of fearing the rough patches, the Stoics would tell us to embrace them as opportunities to deepen our understanding, to strengthen our character, and ultimately to find happiness rooted in resilience, not in ease. Therefore, protecting your happiness means understanding that it's not a destination you arrive at, it's something you cultivate daily. It's a practice, a commitment to finding peace within yourself, rather than seeking it in the external world. It involves being selective with who and what you allow into your life, setting boundaries that safeguard your inner peace, focusing on gratitude, and releasing the endless pursuit of more. And perhaps most importantly, it's about making choices that honor who you are at your core. Happiness isn't about conforming to other people's expectations. It's about living a life that feels authentic to you. The Stoics would assert that when we live this way, when we find contentment in the present, cultivate gratitude, build resilience, and release things beyond our control, we create a happiness that cannot be shaken. It's not flashy or dependent on life's highs and lows. It's a quiet, steady joy rooted in knowing you're living with purpose and integrity. And ultimately, that's what happiness is truly about. Not fleeting pleasure or constant excitement, but a deep sense of fulfillment. A peace that comes from living in alignment with what genuinely matters to you. So, don't sacrifice your happiness. Don't let anyone convince you that it's selfish to protect your peace, to seek out joy, to live a life that feels good to you. Happiness is not a luxury or a reward for hard work. It's an integral part of a well-lived life, and it's within your reach here and now. The Stoics would remind us that we possess everything we need to be happy within ourselves. It's simply a matter of cultivating it, protecting it, and letting go of the things that obstruct its path. So guard your happiness fiercely, because when you do, you're choosing to live a life that honors the deepest part of who you are. Final reflections as we conclude. Remember this: your self-respect, health, dreams, values, and happiness are the foundational pillars that define who you are. Life may challenge them, and others may urge you to compromise them. However, these are the very things worth protecting above all else. In a world that often pulls us in countless directions, staying true to what truly matters is not merely a sign of strength. It is the essence of freedom. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal. If you found value in today's journey, keep growing by watching one of the videos suggested on the screen. Until next time, take care of what's within.